The alarm bells rang loud across Earth Defense Station Alpha 7. Captain Lee Dong-woo ran from his quarters to the command center. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. Red lights flashed everywhere. Officers moved quickly at their stations. "What is happening?" Lee Dong-woo asked his second in command. "Sir, we have unknown ships coming toward us. They look damaged." "Very damaged," said Lieutenant Park Min-soo. Lee Dong-woo looked at the big screen. 3 strange ships moved slowly through space. They were not like any ships he had seen before. Parts of them seemed to shine like crystal. Other parts looked broken and burned. "Are they attacking us?" Lee Dong-woo asked. "No, sir. They are sending signals. It sounds like they need help." "Park," Min-soo said. Dr. Park Ji-hai ran into the command center. She was the station's expert on alien life. Her hair was messy because she had been sleeping when the alarm started. "Captain, I need to see those signals," she said. Lee Dong-woo nodded. "Show her everything." Dr. Park Ji-hai sat at a computer. She listened to the strange sounds coming from the alien ships. The sounds were soft and musical, not like the harsh voices of other alien races they knew. "This is different," she said. "These beings are trying to talk to us, but not with words. It feels like they want to speak directly to our minds." "Is that safe?" Lee Dong-woo asked. "I don't know. But they sound scared. Really scared." The largest alien ship came closer to the station. Lee Dong-woo could see it better now. It looked like it was made of living crystal. Some parts glowed with soft blue light. Other parts were dark and cracked. "Captain," said Officer Kim Yun-ho from the communications station, "they are asking to come on board. They say they need protection." Lee Dong-woo thought hard. Earth was still new to dealing with aliens. Most alien races looked down on humans. They thought humans were too young and too weak to matter in the galaxy. If these aliens were running from something, that something might be very dangerous. "Let one small ship dock with us," Lee Dong-woo decided, "but keep our weapons ready." Dr. Park Ji-hai went to the docking bay. She brought 2 guards with her. The alien ship that came in was small and beautiful. It looked like it was carved from one huge piece of blue crystal. When it landed, it made no sound at all. A door opened in the crystal ship. The being that came out was unlike anything Dr. Park Ji-hai had ever seen. It was tall and thin. Its body was made of the same blue crystal as its ship. Light moved through its body like water. Where a human would have eyes, it had 2 bright points of white light. The alien moved slowly toward Dr. Park Ji-hai. When it was close, she heard a voice in her mind. The voice was soft and sad. "Please," the voice said in her thoughts. "We need help. Our world is gone. Our people are dying." Dr. Park Ji-hai felt strange. She had never heard thoughts that were not her own before, but somehow she could understand this being perfectly. "What happened to you?" she asked out loud. Pictures filled Dr. Park Ji-hai's mind. She saw a beautiful world with cities made of living crystal. She saw beings like this one working together to grow amazing things. Plants that shone with their own light. Buildings that could heal themselves when damaged. Then the pictures changed. Dark ships filled the sky. Beings in heavy armor destroyed everything they could not take. The crystal cities broke apart. The glowing plants died. Many of the crystal beings shattered, like glass. "The Torak Empire," the alien said in her mind. "They came to take our world. We could not fight them. We do not know how to fight. We have never learned to hurt others." Dr. Park Ji-hai felt tears in her eyes. The sadness from this being was so strong it made her heart hurt. "What is your name?" she asked. "I am Kalanin. I speak for my people. We are the Villani. How many of you are left?" "Not many. Maybe 50,000 on the 3 ships. That is all that remains of our people." Dr. Park Ji-hai talked to Captain Lee Dong-woo on her radio. She told him what she had learned. Lee Dong-woo came to the docking bay with more officers. When Lee Dong-woo saw Kalanin, he was amazed. The Villani was beautiful in a way that made him think of art made from starlight. Kalanin spoke to all of them through their minds. "We went to the Galactic Council first. We asked them to help us get our world back. They said no. Why did they say no? Lee Dongwu asked. The sadness in Kalanin's mental voice grew stronger. They said we are weak. They said beings who cannot fight do not deserve to live in this galaxy. They said we should have learned to be warriors long ago. Officer Kim Yun-ho made an angry sound. That is wrong. People should not have to be warriors to live. The council told us to go away, Kalanin continued. They said we could find some empty world and try to start over. But the Tauric Empire follows us. They want to take us as slaves. Our bodies can do things their bodies cannot do. They want to use us like tools. Dr. Park Ji-hee asked, "What can your bodies do?" Kalanin raised one crystal hand. Light flowed through it and around it. The light touched a broken piece of metal on the floor. Slowly the metal became whole again. We can fix things. We can grow things. We can store energy and share it with others. The Tauric want to put us in cages and make us work for them forever. Everyone was quiet for a moment. Then Lee Dongwu asked the big question. What do you want from us? We have heard that humans are different from other races. We heard that humans sometimes help others even when it does not benefit them. We hope you might protect us. Lee Dongwu felt the weight of this choice. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Most alien races still thought humans were primitive and unimportant. If Earth protected the Villani, it might make powerful enemies. But looking at Kalanin, Lee Dongwu could not say no. We will need to talk to our leaders on Earth, he said. But I promise we will not send you away. Kalanin's body grew brighter for a moment. Thank you. Even if you cannot help us, thank you for listening. Dr. Park Ji-hye had an idea. Can you show us more about your people? Maybe we can understand how to help you better. Kalanin touched her hand. Suddenly, Dr. Park Ji-hee could feel what it was like to be Villani. She could sense the crystal beings on all 3 ships. Most of them were hurt and scared. But she could also feel something else. The Villani were connected to each other in ways humans were not. They shared feelings and thoughts like humans shared air. Among all the fear and sadness, Dr. Park Ji-hye found one young Villani who was barely alive. His crystal body was cracked and dim. His name was Veltar. He is dying, Kalanin explained. Not from wounds on his body, but from wounds in his heart. He saw his parents destroyed. He cannot find the will to keep his body solid. Can we help him? Dr. Park Ji-hye asked. Maybe. Your minds are warm, different from ours. When you touch our thoughts, it feels like sunlight. Lee Dongwu made a decision. Bring your people on board our station, all of them. We will find a way to help. The next few hours were busy. The Villani came onto the station in small groups. Each one was beautiful and different. Some were blue like Kalanin, others were green or gold or silver. Their crystal bodies caught the station's lights and made rainbow patterns on the walls. Dr. Park Ji-hye worked with the sickest Villani. She found that when she held their hands and thought positive thoughts, their bodies became a little stronger. It was like her human emotions could feed their crystal forms. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho arrived, from Earth on the fastest ship possible. He was Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. He was also Lee Dongwu's older brother. Dongwu, what have you gotten us into? Kim Tae-ho asked when he saw the Villani. Something right, Lee Dongwu answered. Kim Tae-ho met with Kalanin and other Villani leaders. They told him everything about their destroyed world and their flight from the Tauric Empire. The Galactic Council really said you were too weak to help? Kim Tae-ho asked. Yes, they said evolution should remove beings like us from the galaxy. Kim Tae-ho was quiet for a long time. Then he said, The Galactic Council is wrong. That night, Dr. Park Ji-hye could not sleep. She kept thinking about the young Villani, Veltar. His sadness was so deep it made her chest hurt. She went to the medical bay where he was resting. Veltar's crystal body was almost clear. He was fading away. Dr. Park Ji-hye sat next to him and put her hand on his arm. She thought about good things. She thought about her family on Earth. She thought about the feeling of rain on her face and the smell of flowers in spring. Slowly, color came back to Veltar's body. His crystal form became more solid. "Why do you help us?" Veltar asked in her mind. His mental voice was very young and very tired. "Because it is the right thing to do," Dr. Park Ji-hai answered. "But you do not know us. We cannot give you anything valuable." Dr. Park Ji-hai smiled. "You are valuable just because you exist. Every thinking being has worth." For the first time since his world was destroyed, Veltar felt hope. In the command center, Captain Lee Dong-woo got a message that made his blood cold. Long-range sensors showed Torak warships heading toward Earth's solar system. They would arrive in 3 days. The Torak had found the Villani Lee Dong-woo called Ambassador Kim Tae-ho to the command center. "Brother, we have a problem." Kim Tae-ho saw the sensor readings. "How many ships?" 20 Torak battlecruisers, maybe more. "And we have?" 12 Earth defense ships. Good ships, but not built for this kind of fight. The two brothers looked at each other. They both knew Earth. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho's ship flew fast through space toward Centauri Prime. The massive space station orbiting the bright star was home to the Galactic Council. Kim Tae-ho had been there many times before, but this time felt different. This time, he was not just representing Earth. He was trying to save an entire race of beings. Commander Yu Jin-ah sat across from him in the ship's main cabin. She was Earth's military expert on the Council. Her uniform was clean and pressed, but her face showed worry. "The Torak fleet will reach Earth in 2 days, she said. "If the Council does not help us, a lot of people are going to die." Kim Tae-ho looked out the window at the stars. "The Council should help. The Villani are peaceful beings. They never hurt anyone." "The Council does not care about peaceful beings," Yu Jin-ah said. "They only care about power." Their ship docked with the Council station. The station was huge, bigger than most cities on Earth. It was built by many different alien races, so different parts looked completely different. Some sections were made of metal and glass like human buildings. Other sections were grown from living coral or carved from single pieces of stone. Kim Tae-ho and Commander Yu Jin-ah walked through the main corridor toward the council chamber. Aliens of many types moved past them. Most did not look at the humans. Earth was still considered a minor race in galactic politics. The council chamber was a vast round room with seats rising up in circles. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in those seats. At the center of the room was a speaking platform where Kim Tae-ho would have to make his case. High Counselor Zexthar was the leader of the Korthak race. The Korthaks looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had ruled much of the galaxy for thousands of years through strength and war. Zexthar's yellow eyes looked at Kim Tae-ho with something like amusement. "The human wishes to speak," Zexthar said. His voice was deep and rough. "What does the young race want from the council today?" Kim Tae-ho walked to the speaking platform. He had given speeches here before, but the room always made him feel small. Around him sat beings whose races had traveled the stars when humans were still living in caves. "Honored council members," Kim Tae-ho began. "I come to ask for help for the Villani people. Their world has been destroyed. They are refugees who need protection." A sound like laughter came from the Korthak section. "The Crystal Weaklings?" said another Korthak counselor. "We have already decided about them." "What? Did you decide?" Kim Tae-ho asked, though he was afraid he knew the answer. Counselor Nexara of the Nexari spoke next. The Nexari were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They prided themselves on being logical about everything. "The Villani represent an evolutionary dead end," Nexara said. Her voice had no emotion at all. "A species that cannot defend itself has no place in the modern galaxy. Natural selection should be allowed to take its course." "Natural selection?" Kim Tae-ho could not hide his anger. "You mean genocide? You mean letting an entire race die because they choose peace over war?" "They chose weakness over strength," Zexthar said. "This is the consequence of that choice." Commander Yu Jin-ah stepped forward. She was not supposed to speak, but she could not stay quiet. What about their technology? She asked. The Villani can do things with biological systems that nobody else can do. Their knowledge could help everyone. Their technology is interesting, admitted Nexara. The Torak Empire will put it to better use. By enslaving them? Kim Tae-ho shouted. The chamber became very quiet. Speaking loudly to the council was considered very rude. Zexthar's eyes became narrow and angry. The human forgets his place. Your species has been part of this galaxy for barely 50 years. You do not understand how things work here. I understand that you are abandoning innocent people to slavery and death, Kim Tae-ho said. Innocence is a luxury, said another counselor, from the back of the chamber. This one was a Valdek, a race of beings that looked like walking metal statues. In this galaxy you must be strong, or you must serve those who are. Kim Tae-ho looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces looked back at him. Some seemed bored. Others seemed annoyed. A few seemed amused by the human who dared to argue with the council. What if we protect them? Kim Tae-ho asked. What if Earth offers the Villani shelter? The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens in the seats talked, loudly to each other. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Zexthar held up one clawed hand for quiet. Earth? Protect someone from the Torak Empire? Human, your race has 12 small warships. The Torak Empire has thousands. Numbers are not everything, Commander Yu Jinna said. In war, numbers are the only thing that matters, Zexthar replied. But please, try to protect the crystal beings. It will be educational to see how long you last. Nexara stood up from her seat. The Council cannot prevent Earth from making this mistake, but we will not help when the consequences come. Earth will stand alone. Some things are worth standing alone for, Kim Tae-ho said. As Kim Tae-ho and Commander Yu Jinna left the council chamber, they passed a group of Torak warriors in the corridor. The Toraks were even bigger than the Korthaks. Their skin was thick and rough like rock. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that could blast holes through solid metal. One of the Torak warriors saw the humans and made a sound like grinding stones. Kim Tae-ho realized the Torak was laughing. Humans think they can fight us? The Torak said. Your soft pink skin will burn easily. Commander Yu Jinna put her hand on her weapon, but Kim Tae-ho touched her arm to stop her. We will see, was all Kim Tae-ho said. Back on Earth, scientist Cho Min-ho was making discoveries that would change everything. He worked in a laboratory deep underground, studying samples of Villani crystal that Kalanin had given him. Cho Min-ho had been studying alien biology for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like Villani crystal. It was not really crystal, at all. It was more like a living computer made of light. This is impossible, he said to his assistant, Dr. Lee Sora. What did you find? Lee Sora asked. Look at this. Cho Min-ho showed her readings on his computer screen. This tiny piece of Villani crystal can store more information than our biggest computers. And it is alive. It can think. Think? Not like we think. But it processes information. It makes decisions. Every Villani is not just one being. They are millions of these crystal units working together. Lee So-ra looked at the crystal sample under a special microscope. The tiny piece glowed and pulsed with its own light. What else can it do? She asked. Cho Min-ho had been testing that all day. It can heal damaged materials. It can store and release energy. It can even change the molecular structure of things it touches. That sounds like magic. I know. But it is not magic. It is the most advanced biotechnology in the galaxy. Maybe in the universe. Lee So-ra understood what this meant. The Galactic Council thinks the Villani are useless, but they have technology that could change everything. The Torak Empire knows, Cho Min-ho said. That is why they want to capture the Villani instead of just killing them. They want to use this technology. At that moment, General Ryu Sang-wook came into the laboratory. He was Earth's top military leader. His face was serious. What have you learned about our new friends? he asked. Cho Minho showed him everything. The general's eyes got wider as he understood what Volani technology could do. Can we use this to fight the Torak? General Ryu asked. I do not know yet. The Volani do not think like warriors. Their technology is made for healing and growing, not for fighting. But if we could adapt it, maybe. If we can learn to work with the Volani instead of just studying them. General Ryu made a decision that would save Earth and doom the Torak Empire. Get me every scientist we have. Get me engineers, doctors, anyone who might understand this technology. And get me some Volani who are willing to teach us. On Defense Station Alpha 7, Captain Lee Dongwoo was preparing for the biggest fight of his life. Long-range sensors showed the Torak fleet was now only 1 day away. But something strange was happening on the station. Dr. Park Ji-hai came to him with news that seemed impossible. Captain, you need to see this, she said. She took him to the engineering section. Engineer Lim Jae-sung was working with a group of Volani on the station's power systems. But they were not just working on them, they were changing them. What is happening here? Lee Dongwoo asked. Lim Jae-sung looked up from a control panel that now glowed with soft blue light. Sir, the Volani are teaching us things our engineering manuals never imagined. One of the Volani, an elderly being named Kelvash, touched the captain's mind with his thoughts. Your machines are like dead things, Kelvash said. They follow orders, but they cannot adapt. We are showing them how to live. Live. Your ship. Computers will be able to think for themselves. Your engines will be able to heal their own damage. Your weapons will be able to aim themselves. Lee Dongwoo had studied alien technology for years, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. How is this possible? Dr. Park Ji-hai answered. The Volani do not build technology the way we do. They grow it. Their machines are alive. In the medical bay, Medic Han So-young was learning similar lessons. Young Veltar, who had been dying from sadness, was now helping her treat injured crew members. When Veltar touched someone who was hurt, his crystal body would glow, and the Torak battle fleet filled the space near Earth's outer planets like hungry sharks. Admiral Baek Hyun-woo watched them on his command screen aboard the flagship Seoul's Pride. 20 massive warships, each one 3 times the size of his largest vessel. Admiral, said his communications officer, the Torak commander is sending us a message. Put it through. The screen filled with the ugly face of General Morgak, the Torak commander. His thick gray skin was covered with battle scars. His small red eyes burned with hate. Humans, Morgak said in a voice like grinding rocks. You have something that belongs to the Torak Empire. Give us the crystal beings and we will let you live. Admiral Bayek stood up straight. The Volani are under Earth's protection. You will not have them. Morgak made a sound like angry thunder. Your 12 little ships think they can fight the Torak Empire. We have destroyed entire star systems, human. We will crush you like insects. Try, Admiral Bayek said, and cut the connection. On Defense Station Alpha 7, Captain Lee Dongwoo prepared for the evacuation. The plan was simple but dangerous. Earth ships would hold off the Torak fleet while civilian vessels moved the Volani to hidden colonies in the Outer Rim. Dr. Park Ji-hai worked with Kalanin to organize the Volani refugees. But something had changed since the humans and Volani started working together. The crystal beings were no longer weak and helpless. We will not hide while you fight for us, Kalanin said through their mental connection. You cannot fight the Torak, Dr. Park Ji-hai replied. You do not know how. No. But we can help you fight better. Lieutenant Oh Soo-jin climbed into her fighter craft. The ship that had once been simple metal and circuits was now something alive. Crystal veins ran through the hull, pulsing with soft blue light. The computer core was half machine, half Volani biology. How are you feeling, partner? She asked her ship. Ready, came a voice in her mind. It was not quite human, not quite Volani, but something in between. All around the solar system, other pilots were having similar conversations with their ships. Human technology and Volani biology had merged in ways that created something completely New engineer Lim Jae-sung watched from his station as the ship systems came online. Energy readings were off the charts. The weapons were more accurate than anything Earth had ever built. The shields could adapt and strengthen themselves during battle. "This should not be possible," he said to Valkyra, the young Vallani who had been teaching him. "Your people think in terms of limits," Valkyra replied. "We think in terms of growth. Together, we have no limits." The Torak fleet began to move toward Earth. General Morgak expected this to be a quick battle. Humans were known to be aggressive but weak. The crystal beings were completely helpless. "This should be over in an hour," Admiral Bayek gave the order. "All ships move to intercept, protect the evacuation vessels." The Earth Defense Fleet moved out to meet the Torak. 12 ships against 20. But these were not the same ships that had left Earth's shipyards. They moved with a grace and intelligence that shocked the Torak commanders. Lieutenant Oh Soo-jin's fighter was the first to engage the enemy. Her ship danced between Torak energy blasts like a leaf in the wind. When she fired back, her weapons hit with perfect accuracy. "Impossible," said one Torak gunner as his shots kept missing the small human craft. Oh Soo-jin's ship was not just avoiding the attacks, it was learning from them. The Vallani biological systems studied each energy blast and predicted where the next one would be. The ship could see the future a few seconds ahead. Colonel Song Yoon-hee led a squadron of fighters in a charge against the largest Torak battleship. Her pilots flew in perfect formation, their ships moving as if they shared one mind, and in a way they did. The Vallani network connected all the human pilots. They could feel each other's thoughts and movements. They fought like a single creature with many bodies. The Torak battleship fired its main weapons, beams of energy that could crack planets, shot toward the human fighters. But the small ship split apart and came back together like a flock of birds. Not one was hit. "What are they doing?" General Morgak demanded from his flagship. "I do not know, sir," his tactical officer replied. "They are moving in ways our computers cannot predict." On the Soul's Pride, Captain Nam Ki-jun had fully merged his consciousness with his ship's Vallani systems. He could feel every part of the vessel like it was his own body. When enemy fire hit the shields, he felt it like a gentle touch. When the engines pulsed with power, it was like his own heartbeat. "Targeting enemy flagship," he reported to Admiral Bayek. The Soul's Pride fired its main weapons, but these were not the simple energy blasts that Torak ships used. These were living weapons guided by Vallani intelligence. They sought out the weakest points in the enemy ship's hull and struck with surgical precision. The Torak flagship shuddered under the attack. General Morgak could not believe what he was seeing. "How can their weapons be so accurate?" he shouted. Meanwhile, the evacuation was going better than anyone had hoped. Transport ships filled with Vallani refugees moved toward the outer rim, but these were not defenseless cargo vessels. Working with their crystal passengers, the ships had become something new. Captain Kwon Hyo-jin commanded one of the transport vessels. The ship's hull was covered with Vallani crystal growths that made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. "Torak patrol ship approaching," reported his navigator. "They cannot see us," replied Velshan, the Vallani elder on board. "We are hidden in their own shadows." The Torak patrol ship passed within a few hundred meters of the transport, but its sensors detected nothing. The Vallani crystal was bending light and energy around the human vessel like a cloak. Back in the main battle, something unprecedented was happening. Human tactical thinking and Vallani biological adaptation were creating strategies that had never been seen before. Pilot Nam Ki-jun found himself facing 3 Torak fighters at once. In a normal ship, he would have been destroyed. But his vessel was learning and growing with every second of combat. The Torak fighters fired in coordinated patterns, trying to trap him. But Nam Ki-jun's ship grew new sensor arrays in real time, giving him awareness in all directions. When one of his weapons was damaged, the ship's living systems regrew it in seconds. "This is not fair," one of the Torak pilots complained over the radio. "War is never fair," Nam Ki-jun replied, and destroyed all 3 enemy fighters with shots that curved around obstacles to find their targets. General Morgak was getting desperate. Half of his fleet was damaged or destroyed, and the humans had lost only 2 ships, This was supposed to be an easy victory. All ships focus fire on their flagship, he ordered. The remaining Torak vessels turned toward the Soul's Pride. Energy beams from 10 battleships converged on Admiral Bayek's vessel. But the ship did not try to dodge. Instead, it absorbed the energy like a sponge. The Volani crystal systems throughout the hull drank in the attack and converted it to power for the ship's own weapons. "Thank you," Admiral Bayek said over the radio to General Morgak. "We needed the extra energy." The Soul's Pride fired a blast that was made from the combined power of the Torak attack. General Morgak's flagship broke apart like a toy. On Defense Station Alpha 7, medic Han So-young was treating wounded pilots. But the wounds were healing faster than should have been possible. Veltar and other young Volani were sharing their life energy with the injured humans. "I do not understand," said one pilot whose broken arm had healed in minutes. "What is happening to us?" "Evolution," Han So-young said, using the same word Kalanin had used before. "We are becoming something new." The pilot looked at his healed arm. The skin seemed to have a faint crystal shimmer under the light. "Are we still human?" "We are more than human," Han So-young replied. "We are human and Volani together." As the battle continued, reports came in from around Earth's solar system. Torak reinforcement fleets were approaching from 3 different directions. What had started as a fight against 20 ships was about to become a war against hundreds. Dr. Cho Min-ho contacted Admiral Bayek from his laboratory on Earth. "Admiral, I have been studying the combat data. The integration between our technology and Volani biology is accelerating." "What does that mean?" "It means our ships are getting stronger during the fight. Every battle makes them smarter, faster, more adaptable. But the Torak ships are staying the same." Admiral Bayek understood. "So the longer this fight goes on, the better our chances get." "Exactly. But there is something else. The integration is affecting the crews as well. Our people are developing abilities they never had before." This was true. All over the fleet, human crew members were finding they could do things that should have been impossible. Engineers could see inside machines without opening them. Gunners could predict where enemy ships would move. Pilots could feel the health of their vessels like doctors feeling a pulse. Lieutenant Osu-jin discovered she could communicate with her ship without using her voice or even thinking in words. It was like her mind and the ship's consciousness had become one thing. "We are no longer just pilot and vessel," she reported to her squadron leader. "We are something new." The Torak reinforcements arrived expecting to find the wreckage of human ships and captured Volani refugees. Instead, they found a battlefield where the laws of space combat had been rewritten. Commander Torak. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Admiral Baek Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching his ship repair itself. The hull that had been damaged in the last fight with Torak raiders was growing new crystal armor. The ship was not just healing, it was becoming stronger. "Status report," he said to his executive officer. "All systems operating at 150% of original capacity," Commander Park Soo-jin reported. "The integration with Volani biology continues to improve our performance." Admiral Bayek nodded. Every ship in the Earth Defense Fleet had become something unprecedented. They were no longer just machines operated by crews. They were living entities with human determination and Volani adaptability flowing through their systems. But the changes went far beyond military vessels. On the farming world of New Terra, colonist families worked alongside Volani refugees to grow crops that could feed millions. The crystal beings had taught the humans how to help plants grow faster and stronger. Fields that once produced barely enough food now created harvests that seemed almost magical. Young farmer Kim Do-hyun watched in amazement as his wheat grew taller in one day than it normally did in a week. Beside him, a Volani child named Velketh touched the soil with her crystal fingers, sharing life energy with the growing plants. "How is this possible?" Do-hyun asked. "All living things want to grow and be healthy," Velketh replied through their mental connection. "We just remind them how." The success of these hybrid colonies spread throughout human space and beyond. Worlds that had struggled to support their populations suddenly had abundance. Species that had been on the edge of starvation began to thrive. But not everyone was happy about these changes. On the Galactic Council station, High Counselor Zexthar paced angrily in his private chambers. Reports came in every day of more worlds joining the Human-Villani Alliance. His aide, Subcommander Korthak, brought the latest intelligence. "Sir, the Valdek Republic has officially requested membership in the Alliance," Korthak reported. "The Valdek?" Zexthar's yellow eyes blazed with rage. "They have been our allies for 1,000 years. They say the Alliance offers better protection than the Council, and better trade opportunities." Zexthar slammed his clawed fist on his desk. Better protection? From what? Two species that barely know how to travel between stars? But Korthak had studied the reports carefully. "Sir, their military capabilities are unusual. Our analysts cannot understand how their ships work. They seem to violate several laws of physics." "Physics does not change," Zexthar roared. "No, sir. But apparently our understanding of physics was incomplete." Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. The rigid hierarchy that had dominated space for thousands of years was crumbling as more and more worlds chose cooperation over domination. On Earth, Director Shin Yu-jin was overwhelmed by the request for help coming from across the galaxy. The Human-Villani Cooperative Research Institute had been created to handle the flood of scientific and technological collaboration requests. "We have 17 different species asking us to help them develop living ship technology," she reported to President Moon Jae-hyun. 43 worlds want our help with agricultural advancement, and over 100 planets are requesting refugee assistance. "Can we help them all?" President Moon asked. Dr. Park Ji-hai, who now served as the Institute's chief of xenobiology, answered. "The Villani network grows stronger with every new connection. The more species that join our alliance, the more knowledge and capability we all share." She touched a crystal panel on her desk. Immediately, her consciousness connected to the vast Villani network that now spanned dozens of star systems. Through that network, she could feel the thoughts and emotions of millions of beings working together for common goals. "It is like having the combined wisdom of an entire galaxy at our fingertips," she explained. But the network was more than just a communication system. It had become something approaching a collective consciousness that preserved individual identity while allowing unprecedented cooperation. Captain Kwan Hyo-jin experienced this every day aboard his exploration vessel, the New Dawn. His crew was made up of humans, Villani, and members of 6 other species that had joined the Alliance. They worked together with a harmony that amazed everyone who saw them. "Navigation, set course for the outer spiral," Kwan ordered. "Course plotted," replied his navigator, a tall blue-skinned being from the Satara system. "Engineering, how are our biological systems?" he asked. "Growing strong, Captain," answered Velnara, the Villani engineer who had integrated with the ship's living components. The New Dawn was exploring regions of space that had been considered too dangerous for traditional ships. But the hybrid technology allowed them to adapt to any environment they encountered. They had discovered 3 new worlds suitable for colonization in the past month alone. Each world was being developed not through conquest or exploitation, but through careful cooperation with any native life they found. Meanwhile, the Torak Empire was discovering that their problems went far beyond military defeat. Veltar, who had once been a dying refugee on Earth's defense station, had grown into one of the most important figures in the galaxy. He worked with a team of human psychologists and Villani healers to help enslaved crystal beings throughout Torak. Space remember their own strength. The mental network that connected all Villani had become a tool of liberation. On the mining world of Torak 7, thousands of Villani slaves suddenly stopped working. But they did not rebel with violence. Instead, they began to sing. The song had no words that Torak guards could understand, but it carried the emotional memory of every Villani who had ever lived free. It reminded the enslaved crystal beings that they had once been proud creators and healers, not just tools for their captors to use. Overseer Morkath tried to force the slaves back to work with electric prods and beating sticks. But the Villani crystal bodies absorbed the electrical attacks and converted them into light and music. The more he tried to hurt them, the brighter and more beautiful their song became. What are they doing? Morkath demanded. His lieutenant, Sargoth, watched in confusion as the crystal beings began to glow with inner light. I think they are remembering something, sir. Within hours, the Vellani slaves had transformed the ugly mining facility into something resembling a work of art. Crystal formations grew from the walls and floors, creating beauty where there had been only industrial brutality. The Torak guards found themselves unable to destroy the crystal growths. Every time they smashed one formation, two more grew in its place. The Vellani were not fighting their captors. They were simply refusing to be anything other than themselves. Similar uprisings were happening throughout Torak space. But these were not violent rebellions that could be crushed with military force. They were something the Torak Empire had no experience dealing with, peaceful resistance that grew stronger when opposed. Emperor Torgash called an emergency meeting of his high commanders. The massive Torak leader sat on his throne of black metal, his scarred face twisted with frustration. How do we fight an enemy that will not fight back? He demanded. We could try negotiation, suggested General Vexkalar, one of his more moderate advisors. Negotiation? Torgash's voice shook the walls of the throne room. The Torak Empire does not negotiate with slaves. They are no longer acting like slaves, Your Majesty, Vexkalar said carefully. Then we will remind them what happens to those who defy us. But every attempt to punish the rebellious Vellani only made the situation worse. When Torak forces attacked crystal beings, their violence was absorbed and transformed into healing, energy that helped other slaves. When they tried to destroy Vellani creations, new and more beautiful structures grew in their place. The empire that had ruled through fear for centuries suddenly found that fear no longer worked. Back in Earth's solar system, the changes were becoming visible to the naked eye. Space stations that had once been simple metal structures were now covered with living crystal that pulsed with gentle light. The stations were not just more beautiful. They were more efficient, more comfortable, and capable of healing their own damage. Lieutenant Osu Jin, who had been among the first pilots to bond with Vellani-enhanced ships, now commanded a squadron of the new hybrid fighters. Her pilots came from a dozen different worlds, but they flew with perfect coordination. Squadron leader to all pilots, she said over the radio. We have reports of Torak raiders in the Kepler system. The local population has requested assistance. Copy that, squadron leader, came the replies from her diverse team. They launched from the defense station in ships that moved like living creatures through space. Each vessel was unique, grown rather than built, adapted to the specific needs and personality of its pilot. The flight to the Kepler system took only hours, thanks to the biological engines that could bend space in ways traditional technology could not achieve. When they arrived, they found 3 Torak battlecruisers attacking a peaceful trading station. But this was not like the desperate battle Earth had fought months before. Sujin's pilots were not just defending against superior numbers. They were demonstrating the evolution of combat itself. The Torak ships fired massive energy blasts at the approaching fighters. But 1 year after the Battle of Earth, President Moon Jae-hyun stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. The new council chamber had been built on a neutral world in the Centauri system. Unlike the old council station, this building was alive. Vellani crystal formations grew through its walls, carrying thoughts and emotions between the hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy. 1 year ago, President Moon began, his voice carried to every corner of the chamber. Through biocrystal communication networks, my species was considered primitive by galactic standards. The Vellani were considered weak and useless. Today we gather not as superior and inferior races, but as equal partners in building a better future. The chamber held representatives from over 300 worlds, species that had never been allowed to speak in the old Galactic Council, now had voices that were heard and valued. The Moss people of Delta 4 sat next to the crystal singers of the Outer Rim. The tree shepherds of New Eden shared space with the ocean dreamers of Aquatica Prime. Many of these species had been conquered or enslaved by the old galactic powers. Now they were free partners in an alliance that grew stronger with every new member. Director Shin Yu-jin sat in the section reserved for Earth's delegation. Beside her were Dr. Park Ji-hai and Captain Kwan Hyo-jin. All three had been changed by their integration with Villani consciousness. Their eyes held a depth of understanding that came from being connected to millions of other minds across the galaxy, but they were still recognizably human. The integration did not erase individual identity. It enhanced it. The old galaxy was built on the belief that strength came from the ability to dominate others. President Moon continued. We have proven that true strength comes from the ability to help others become their best selves. In the audience, Kalanin listened with satisfaction. The elderly Villani leader had grown stronger over the past year as his people found new purpose. No longer refugees, the Villani had become teachers and healers throughout the Alliance. Next to Kalanin sat Veltar, the young Villani who had once been dying from despair. He now served as ambassador to the liberated Torak worlds. His work helping former slaves remember their dignity had become legendary throughout the galaxy. But we are not here to celebrate our past victories, President Moon said. We are here to plan our future together. The first order of business was the official dissolution of the old Galactic Council. High Counselor Zexthar had arrived on the neutral world 3 days earlier with a small delegation of die-hard supporters. They sat in a corner of the chamber looking bitter and defeated. Counselor Nexara, however, had made a different choice. The logical Nexari had studied the success of the human-Villani alliance and concluded that cooperation was indeed more effective than domination. She now sat with the Earth delegation, working to help her people adapt to the new galactic order. The Nexari Republic formally requests membership in the alliance, she announced when called upon to speak. Zexthar roared in anger. Traitor, you betray everything the Nexari have stood for. I betray nothing, Nexara replied calmly. I adapt to new evidence. That is what intelligent beings do. The vote on Nexari membership was unanimous. Even the Korthak delegation abstained, rather than voting against it. The old patterns of galactic politics were crumbling, but the most dramatic moment came when a new delegation entered the chamber. These were Torak, led by General Vex Kolar, who had overthrown Emperor Torgash in a bloodless coup. The Torak Empire is dead, Vex Kolar announced. We come as the Torak Republic seeking to make amends for the crimes of our past. The chamber was silent. Many of the beings present had suffered under Torak oppression. The crystal formations in the walls pulsed with complex emotions. Anger, fear, hope, and uncertainty all mixed together. President Moon looked to Kalanin and the other Villani leaders. If anyone had the right to refuse the Torak, it was the crystal beings who had been enslaved and hunted by the Empire. Kalanin stood slowly. His crystal body caught the light from the chamber's bioluminescent ceiling, creating patterns of beauty on the walls. We remember the pain you caused us, he said, his mental voice reaching every being in the chamber. But we also remember that pain teaches compassion. If you truly wish to change, we will help you learn a better way. The Torak delegation knelt before the chamber. For a proud warrior race, this was an act of profound humility. We have much to learn, General Vex Kolar admitted. Our people have forgotten how to create. We only knew how to destroy. Will you teach us to build instead? The integration of the former Torak Empire into the Alliance would take years, but the process had already begun on worlds throughout their former territory. Liberated Villani slaves were working with reformed Torak citizens to transform military bases into schools, weapons factories into art centers, and prison planets into gardens. Captain Lee Dong-woo, now Admiral of the Alliance Defense Force, gave a report on the military situation. The news was remarkable. There had been no major conflicts anywhere in the galaxy for 8 months. When beings can communicate directly through the bio-crystal network, he explained, misunderstandings that lead to war become almost impossible. We can feel each other's true intentions. This did not mean the end of all disagreements. Different species still had different needs and wants, but conflicts were now resolved through negotiation and compromise rather than violence. Dr. Cho Min-ho, now head of the Alliance Scientific Council, reported on technological developments. The integration of biological and mechanical systems had led to advances that seemed miraculous to previous generations. "We have developed ships that can heal themselves and grow stronger over time," he said. "Agricultural systems that can adapt to any environment. Medical techniques that can cure diseases by helping the body remember how to be healthy." But perhaps the most important development was in education. Children throughout the Alliance grew up learning not just facts and skills, but empathy and cooperation. Schools were designed as living systems where students, teachers, and the buildings themselves all learned together. Young Kim So-hai, daughter of 2 Alliance diplomats, attended one such school on New Terra. Her class included human children, young Villani, Torak cubs learning to be gentle, and dozens of other species. "Today we will explore the music of the Crystal Singers," announced her teacher, a being whose species communicated entirely through musical tones. So-hai closed her eyes and opened her mind to the bio-crystal network. Suddenly, she could hear, feel, taste the complex harmonies that the Crystal Singers used to share emotions and ideas. Her human brain interpreted the experience differently than her Villani classmates' crystal consciousness did, but both children understood the beauty and meaning of the music. This kind of multi-species education was creating a generation that thought in ways no previous generation had ever imagined. These children saw the galaxy not as a collection of competing races, but as one vast living system where every species contributed unique gifts. Back in the council chamber, the representatives were voting on the Alliance Charter. The document established principles that would govern the new galactic civilization: cooperation over competition, healing over harming, growth over conquest. But the most important vote was on Article 7, the establishment of the Great Project. "For too long," President Moon explained, "we have thought small. Each species worried only about its own survival and prosperity. But we have learned that we are stronger together. The Great Project will be our gift to future generations. A completely integrated galaxy where every world, every species, every individual can reach their full potential." The Great Project was ambitious beyond anything ever attempted. It involved connecting every inhabited world through bio-crystal networks that would allow instant communication and resource sharing. Terraforming projects would create new worlds designed specifically for multi-species cooperation. Space habitats would be grown rather than built, creating living communities that could adapt to their residents' needs. Most importantly, the project included the establishment of sanctuary worlds, planets set aside specifically for species that needed protection or healing. No species would ever again face extinction because they were considered unfit by galactic standards. The vote on the Great Project was unanimous. As the session ended, representatives from hundreds of worlds mingled in the chamber. The biocrystal walls pulsed with warm light as beings from across the galaxy shared thoughts and feelings directly. Language barriers became meaningless when minds could touch minds. Dr. Park Ji-hai found herself in conversation with a being she had never met before, a small, furry creature from the Epsilon Eridani system. Through the network, she learned that his people were master gardeners who could grow food in the harshest environments. "Your knowledge could help feed worlds that struggle with hunger," she said through the mental connection, "and your people's courage could help my people find the strength to explore beyond our home system," the being replied. "We have been afraid to travel to other worlds." Such exchanges were happening all over the chamber. Species were discovering that their unique abilities could complement each other in ways they had never imagined. High Counselor Zexthar watched these interactions with disgust and growing fear. He,